What's up YouTube, this is Mathwas97 and welcome to the studio here at WWE headquarters. We've got women's tag team action set to take place later in the episode, but before we get there, we've got a WrestleMania match card to discuss. That's right, we're going to be breaking down each and every match that will take place at the second annual Universe Mode WrestleMania. First off, I'd like to remind you all that just before WrestleMania, we will be hosting the Slammy Awards special. In that video, the winners of the Year 2 Slammy Awards will be announced, and we will also have 4 exciting matchups to showcase, including a grudge match between the former World Heavyweight Champion Christian and his longtime friend turned enemy, Edge. I can also confirm that the WWE Champion Kevin Owens, the World Heavyweight Champion Dolph Ziggler, and the Royal Rumble winner Cesaro will all make appearances. There are many other superstars that will be in attendance as well, so you do not want to miss this year's Slammy Awards. Now that I've covered all of my advertisements, let's move on to the opening match of WrestleMania, the Women's Championship match. It's the Queen of the Ring finale, Natalya versus Sasha Banks versus Asuka. Asuka made her way into the finals by defeating Brie Bella, Nikki Bella, and Sasha Banks. Natalya, she made her way to the finals by defeating Carmella, Charlotte, and Becky Lynch. And Sasha Banks, well, she defeated Trish Stratus, Bayley, and Becky Lynch in the Last Chance match. Outside of the tournament, Asuka has also scored singles victories over both members of the Divas Empire, Summer Rae and Tamina Snuka. Natalya, a former Divas champion, defeated both Beth Phoenix and Caitlyn during her reign before she lost the belt in a triple threat at the first Night of Champions. She also lost a triple threat for the title at the following Night of Champions pay-per-view, though she wasn't involved in the decision. Can the former Divas champion reclaim her throne? Or will the Empress of Tomorrow reign supreme in the Queen of the Ring finale? Or will the underdog Sasha Banks defy the odds and become the first ever Queen of the Ring and the first ever women's champion of the new era? Baron Corbin won the United States Championship in his debut match, which was a triple threat at Battleground, also including Cesaro and Samoa Joe. During his reign, Baron Corbin has defended the title against guys like Cesaro, Sami Zayn, Jack Swagger, and Rusev, and he also holds pinfall victories over Dean Ambrose and the former World Heavyweight Champion Ryback. On the other side, Curtis Axel has competed for both the Intercontinental and United States Championships on separate occasions, though he came up short in both matches. He also participated in the WWE 2K17 Money in the Bank ladder match, albeit unsuccessfully, and he was eliminated in the first round of the King of the Ring tournament by Rusev. With help from the Outcasts, Axel defeated both Rusev and Sami Zayn in singles matches to earn his #1 contendership, but at WrestleMania, the Outcasts will be banned from ringside. Will this be the difference maker, or can Curtis Axel finally capture that elusive first championship? Finn Balor and Hideo Itami won the tag team titles from the Ascension at Battleground, and have since defeated the Lucha Dragons, New Day, and Blake and Murphy. Balor also scored a singles victory over Bubba Ray Dudley on last week's main event. For the primetime players, the previous year in Universe Mode was a rocky one. After they failed to capture the tag team gold from the Wyatt family last January, Titus turned his back on Darren Young. The two had a match at Elimination Chamber, and both men competed in an Intercontinental Championship Fatal 4-Way, of which Titus was the victor. While most of the year consisted of Titus defending his IC title before winning the King of the Ring and main eventing Survivor Series for the WWE title, Darren Young failed to muster the same success as his partner, and at Survivor Series, he failed to capture the vacant IC title in a match that was won by Austin Aries, then posing as Stardust. After the two seemingly buried the hatchet at King of the Ring, the two reunited at Fastlane to eliminate the SmackDown Originals from the #1 Contenders Gauntlet match before they themselves were eliminated by the Ascension. Since then, the PTP have gained victories over the Usos and the team of Enzo and Cass, just inching their way into this match. The Dudley Boys have an unprecedented career, winning titles all around the globe and competing in some of the most extreme tag team matches ever created. As such, they have experience in multi-team matchups like this, and they also have the veteran advantage as a unit. Since arriving in January, Team 3D quickly decimated Los Matadores and Golden Truth, and they also scored a huge win over Blake and Murphy in February. This brings us to the Ascension, who won their first tag team titles from the Wyatt family at Over the Limit, and their reign lasted for 140 days until Balor and Itami defeated them at Battleground. Though the Destructive Duo lost their rematch clause and a later match against New Day, the Ascension regained their composure in the Fastlane Gauntlet when they eliminated both the Primetime Players and the Vaudevillains. They scored yet another victory over the Vaudevillains on an episode of SmackDown in February. It truly is anybody's ballgame as we enter this fatal four-way match. After the Shield defeated the Wyatt family at WrestleMania, Reigns was drafted to SmackDown and immediately thrust into a WWE Championship No. 1 Contenders Battle Royal. Though he eliminated Chris Jericho, Mark Henry, and Sheamus, he was eventually eliminated by Wade Barrett. Reigns wouldn't receive another shot at the title until Payback when he fought Barrett, Sheamus, and CM Punk in a fatal four-way match that was won by Punk. Reigns went on to represent SmackDown in the Money in the Bank ladder match until he was obliterated by Bray Wyatt. Reigns sought redemption at SummerSlam, but he was defeated by Wyatt. Reigns advanced to the semifinals of the King of the Ring before he was eliminated by Titus O'Neil. Despite that, Reigns still received a WWE title match with Brock Lesnar at Battleground, but he lost that as well. Reigns wouldn't receive another No. 1 Contenders match until January, when he was upset by Adrian Neville. On top of that, Reigns lost another singles match with Kevin Owens via countout the following week. Reigns eliminated 3 men in the Royal Rumble match, one of whom returned to eliminate Reigns later on in the night. That man, of course, was John Cena. Reigns attempted to call Cena to the ring a few weeks later, but Cena was a no-show. Reigns repeated the process 1 week later, but when Cena didn't come out, Reigns went on the hunt. This resulted in a backstage brawl where Reigns speared Cena into an HD TV. He would deliver another bone-rattling spear to Cena after John defeated Cody Rhodes a few weeks ago, but Cena retaliated just last night with a devastating attitude adjustment following Roman's win over Jack Swagger. John Cena, much like Roman Reigns, started his year on the new blue brand better than he ended it. Following the WWE draft, Cena was fairly quiet until he defeated Mark Henry in a No. 1 Contenders match at Payback. This led to an absolute classic of a match between Cena and CM Punk at Money in the Bank, but it was Punk who came out on top. Cena received another shot at the title at Night of Champions, though Cena was no match for the Beast Incarnate, Brock Lesnar. When the match was over, however, Bray Wyatt would set his sights on the leader of the C Nation and lay him out with a Sister Abigail. When Cena returned to the ring, he immediately set his sights on Wyatt, but even John Cena couldn't overcome the Eater of Worlds in their confrontation at Survivor Series. After Sting rescued Cena from Wyatt's post-match assault, the two icons joined forces to battle Luke Harper and Eric Rowan at Fastlane, but during the match, Cena betrayed Sting and forfeited their chance at victory. Cena also lost his grudge match with Sting at the Royal Rumble, and per Cena's own words leading into the match, Cena backed away from the Sting-Wyatt conflict. He also took part in the Rumble match, earning 2 eliminations in the bout before he was eliminated by Reigns. This rivalry has become very personal over the last several weeks, but now with the added stipulation that the loser will not be able to challenge for the WWE Championship for an entire year, this truly is a make or break match for both men. Cody Rhodes has been in pursuit of the Intercontinental Championship since the beginning, but the story behind this match doesn't really take off until this past Survivor Series. After Kevin Owens had vacated the title, 2 No. 1 Contender matches were held on SmackDown, and those 2 matches were won by Darren Young and Cody Rhodes, then posing as Stardust. At Survivor Series, Stardust became the new Intercontinental Champion, but what we didn't know was that Stardust had suffered some identity theft. Several months later, we found out that Cody Rhodes had been ambushed in the parking lot by a new superstar whose contract Triple H had kept a secret. This man turned out to be Austin Aries, and it was Austin Aries who fought Darren Young on that fated night in San Antonio. Under the guise of Cody's Stardust character, Austin Aries went on to retain the Intercontinental Championship at Fastlane in a double countout. 2 weeks later, Aries and Jericho tore the house down in a no-holds-barred match that was eventually won by Chris Jericho. Stardust immediately requested a rematch at the Royal Rumble, but the general manager Lita denied the match, stating that she wanted the 2 men to recover for the upcoming Rumble match. Shortly after Stardust had eliminated Jericho in that match, Cody Rhodes made his grand return to the ring, shocking everyone in attendance. It was Stardust who eliminated Rhodes from the Rumble, but Rhodes got the last laugh when he drove Stardust through the ringside barrier. 2 nights later, Rhodes called out the imposter, but it was Chris Jericho who confronted Rhodes. Y2J thought the whole thing was some kind of a trick, and this led to a King of the Ring rematch between Rhodes and Jericho. And while Rhodes may have come out on top in the tournament, it was Jericho who won this round. Afterwards, Cody's request for an unsanctioned match with Stardust would be granted at Roadblock, but the war began well before these 2 adversaries were scheduled to compete. Stardust fled from the building, and for 3 more weeks, we had to wait until Austin Aries finally revealed his identity to the world, scoring a win over Rhodes in the process. His celebration was short-lived, however, because Chris Jericho jumped into the fray and left both Aries and Rhodes laying unconscious after 2 vicious codebreakers. The remaining 3 spots in this ladder match were filled by qualifying matches. The Miz defeated Tyson Kidd by disqualification, Tyler Breeze scored the upset over the former world champion Mark Henry, and Apollo Crews made a massive impact in his debut with a win over another former world champion in Sheamus. These 6 combustible elements were thrown into the ring just last night in a chaotic 6-man tag team match that saw Tyler Breeze picking up the pinfall over Apollo Crews. This finish was inevitable though, as Aries and Rhodes left Crews high and dry to resume their never-ending nightmare. If you thought that the tag match was combustible, you are in for one hell of a ride this Sunday when all alliances will be thrown out the window. It's every man for themselves in the ladder match. From the moment Paige entered Universe Mode, she was a force to be reckoned with. Shortly after her debut, Paige captured the Divas Championship from Brie Bella at Extreme Rules. She became the first ever 2-time Divas Champion at Money in the Bank, and she went into Night of Champions as the defending champ. She would lose that bout to Nikki Bella, however, and before she could cash in a rematch clause for the title, the Divas division was dropped. We would later find out that Stephanie McMahon was behind this decision, so naturally, once Paige was eliminated from the Queen of the Ring tournament, she would set her sights on the one responsible for the months of in-ring competition that she had lost. However, she isn't the only one who shares this ill will towards the billionaire princess. Nikki Bella, the woman who beat Paige for the title at Night of Champions, wanted a shot at the boss as well, and so the two fought for the right to challenge Steph at WrestleMania. The anti-diva came out on top, and at Roadblock, Paige and Stephanie McMahon stood face to face in the center of the ring. McMahon stated that Paige only wanted to fight her so that she could stay relevant in the division, that Paige couldn't keep up with WWE's new influx of talent. After that, Steph gave Paige this ultimatum: defeat me at WrestleMania, and you'll be granted a shot at the new women's champion. Lose, however, and you will be fired. Following his loss to Daniel Bryan at last year's WrestleMania, Brock Lesnar disappeared from the face of WWE until he made a triumphant return at SummerSlam by assaulting Daniel Bryan, stealing his Money in the Bank briefcase, and cashing it in on CM Punk to win the WWE title. After conquering John Cena and Roman Reigns, Lesnar was dethroned by Kevin Owens at Survivor Series, and the Beast failed to reclaim his crown in a rematch at Fastlane. Following this, Lesnar not only set his sights on the Royal Rumble, but he dominated it, tallying 6 eliminations before Lesnar himself was tossed by the combined efforts of Titus O'Neil and Daniel Bryan. Eventually, Lesnar was entered into a triple threat match against Bryan and Punk, in which Lesnar was pinned by the Second City Saint. This sent the Beast into an absolute frenzy, but it also kicked the door wide open for anyone to confront this irate monster. Enter Shinsuke Nakamura, the king of strong style. Not only did Nakamura confront the Beast, but he decimated him, capping off the night with a Kinshasa felt round the world. Will that be the same outcome at WrestleMania, or will the Beast turn his luck around at the expense of Nakamura? Shortly after the Samoan Submission Machine made his WWE debut at Battleground, the former world champion Randy Orton set his sights on the newcomer. The Viper stated that he was sick of rookies taking what belongs to him, that he was ignored for half a year on SmackDown, and that he wasn't going back to that abyss. He dubbed himself the Rookie Killer, though Joe and Styles can hardly be considered rookies. Joe would get his revenge at Survivor Series, but that only made matters worse. After Orton suffered a loss at the hands of Damien Sandow just one night later, he snapped. With one boot to the skull, Randy Orton brought the career of Damien Sandow to an abrupt end, and he attempted to do the same thing to Sandow's partner just 1 week later. But not even Samoa Joe could contain the unbridled rage that was slowly consuming Randy Orton. At Fastlane, Orton beat Joe in a street fight, and it seemed like Orton's rivalry with Joe was over, until AJ Styles entered the picture. The Phenomenal One certainly made a name for himself at the Royal Rumble, but as their eventual match at Roadblock would indicate, Styles had crossed paths with the wrong Viper. Before Orton could deliver his deadly punt kick, Joe came to the aid of yet another Orton victim. This time, however, Orton had backup. Perhaps this is the veteran wherewithal that Orton possesses, because he was able to persuade Batista to reform Evolution with a promise that doing so would guarantee both men a match at WrestleMania, and indeed it did. Will Evolution remove these two indie darlings from the face of the industry, or has the evolution of professional wrestling left these two WWE veterans in the dust? After the Shield defeated the Wyatt family at last year's WrestleMania, Bray Wyatt completely disappeared off the face of the planet. It wasn't until Money in the Bank that the Eater of Worlds would once again induce his own brand of chaos into the WWE. His first victim was Roman Reigns. His second was John Cena, and neither of those two men have managed to recover since. In the case of John Cena, Wyatt attempted to take it one step further, but before he could land the killing blow, Sting appeared to put an end to Wyatt's madness. That effect was short-lived, however, because at Fastlane, John Cena did the unthinkable. He not only turned his back on Sting, but he turned his back on the people as well. This prolonged Sting's war with Wyatt considerably, and it wasn't until the Royal Rumble that Sting finally forced Cena to back away. After that, Sting once again set his sights on the Wicked Wyatts, and at Roadblock, he barely managed to take down their newest recruit, Braun Strowman. At that point, the Master Manipulator re-emerged from the shadows to banish the man he called a failed experiment, and that gave Sting the opening to finally stand toe-to-toe with the leader himself. Will Sting save us from the twisted mind of Bray Wyatt, or will the new face of fear bury the legacy of Sting once and for all? It has been 20 long months since Daniel Bryan first asked for a match with CM Punk, and this Sunday at WrestleMania, these two will finally square off one-on-one. But why did it take so long to get here? Why did it take nearly 2 years to make this match official? At first, Vince McMahon was the problem. When Bryan initially requested a match with CM Punk, it was Vince who shut Bryan down on the basis that a match like that wouldn't be entertaining enough for a WWE show. After that, both men suffered a string of losses that kept them both out of that year's King of the Ring tournament. It was at this stage that Daniel Bryan gave himself an ultimatum. He would prove his worth by defeating all of Punk's previous opponents. It started with The Miz and Chris Jericho, and after Bryan overcame some unforeseen obstacles in Curtis Axel and Batista, Brock Lesnar was all that stood in his path. Lesnar was victorious in their first encounter, but Bryan would get his win back at WrestleMania. As for CM Punk, he eventually brought himself back to the top by winning the Royal Rumble and later regaining his WWE title from The Rock. Just when it looked like Bryan versus Punk was on the table, Punk got drafted to SmackDown. From that point on, Punk would continue defending his WWE title on SmackDown against the likes of Wade Barrett, Sheamus, Roman Reigns, and John Cena. It wasn't until Money in the Bank that Daniel Bryan would once again have the chance to face CM Punk after he successfully captured the Money in the Bank briefcase. This resulted in a trade that sent Bryan to SmackDown and Randy Orton to Raw. After that, a match was set for SummerSlam. Bryan would cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase for a WWE title match with CM Punk. Unfortunately for both men, that match would never happen. Instead, Brock Lesnar assaulted Daniel Bryan backstage, stole his guaranteed title shot, and used it to injure Punk and take his title. We wouldn't see or hear from either man again until the Royal Rumble, when both Punk and Bryan made their respective returns. Bryan would get his revenge over Lesnar thanks to an assist from Titus O'Neil, but Punk found himself on the wrong side of an elimination, courtesy of the Beast Incarnate. Consumed by anger and disappointment, Punk eliminated Bryan from the bout and took away his shot at main eventing WrestleMania. He would later apologize for his actions once he got his own retribution against Brock Lesnar, but you'd have to imagine that Daniel Bryan isn't willing to let that slide completely. Bryan owes Punk a bit of a beating after that childish moment at the Rumble, and considering that Bryan has been working toward this match for almost 2 years, can he afford to let the win slip through his fingers? The landscape of the WWE has completely shifted in the 5 months that these two were out of action. Their entire careers could be riding on the outcome of this one match. Kevin Owens has been on a tear since he walked in the door. In his debut match, he won the Intercontinental Championship from Cesaro, and in his pay-per-view debut, he retained the gold against the former champ, Titus O'Neil. After that, Kevin Owens traded in his title for a shot at the big prize in the main event of Survivor Series. But before he could get there, he would first injure the former world champion Mark Henry with a devastating package piledriver. Owens would use the very same move to dethrone Brock Lesnar at Survivor Series, and at Fastlane, he did the exact same thing to retain his newly won WWE title. With Brock Lesnar out of the picture, Kevin Owens would withstand everything that Adrian Neville could possibly throw at him during their Royal Rumble encounter, before Owens would put him on the shelf with a package piledriver. Owens walked into Brisbane, Australia to call out Cesaro on his Rumble victory, but instead, Owens found himself on the receiving end of a choke slam from The Undertaker. After that, Owens personally requested this match with the Phenom, and on last week's SmackDown, Owens guaranteed that he would not only end The Undertaker's WrestleMania undefeated streak, but that he would end the dead man's career as well. We all know that Kevin Owens can live up to that promise, but the question is, will he live up to that promise? The Shield dominated the WWE from the moment they arrived. In the 10 months that they were at large, they hijacked the WWE title picture, destroyed 3 of WWE's biggest names in the main event of Survivor Series, and erased the majority of the McMahon family from the face of WWE. At WrestleMania, they stood tall over the Wyatt family in what would be their final match as a unit. The next night on Raw, Dean Ambrose lost a WWE draft match to Sheamus, and Roman Reigns was sent packing to SmackDown. Shortly after that, Ambrose and Rollins lost a tag team championship match against Luke Harper and Eric Rowan, and a few weeks after that, Seth Rollins betrayed his longtime comrade. With Ambrose out of the picture, Seth Rollins went on to tear Triple H apart at Money in the Bank, stealing the game's finishing move in the process. The next night on Raw, Rollins was confronted by both Shane McMahon and a returning Dean Ambrose, the latter of whom proceeded to drive Rollins skull first into the canvas. To pay for his past actions, Seth Rollins was forced to run the gauntlet at SummerSlam, but not only did he survive the night, he walked out of both matches the victor thanks to an assistance from the then Director of Operations, Kane. Ambrose would get his retribution over Kane in a King of the Ring qualifying match later in the month, while Seth Rollins screwed Sami Zayn out of a victory in another qualifier. At Night of Champions, Rollins and Ambrose collided once again, this time inside of a steel cage. Before the match could even start, however, Seth Rollins blindsided Dean Ambrose at ringside with chair shot after chair shot. Finally, after delivering a devastating pedigree onto the steel chair, Rollins rolled Ambrose into the ring and started the match. In spite of a valiant effort from Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins was able to escape the cage and secure yet another win over his nemesis. Once the cage was raised, Ambrose was suddenly blindsided by 2 hooded figures who we later learned were Wesley Blake and Buddy Murphy. This assault would eventually lead to a tag team match at Battleground, but before that was the 2nd annual King of the Ring tournament. During the event, Ambrose was eliminated by Cesaro in the quarterfinals, whereas Rollins managed to squirm his way into the finals thanks to outside interference from Kane and Big Show in his 2nd round match with Rusev. It seemed as though Rollins had the victory in hand once Blake and Murphy showed up at ringside, but Ambrose and Darren Young would even the odds and allow Titus O'Neil the opportunity to overpower Seth Rollins and become the 2nd King of the Ring. At Battleground, Dean Ambrose and Sami Zayn would come up short against Blake and Murphy, and Seth Rollins would also find defeat at the hands of Rusev. All of these skirmishes would eventually play into a 5-on-5 elimination tag team match at Survivor Series, Team Ambrose versus Team Rollins. Once the dust had settled, Seth Rollins and Dolph Ziggler stood tall as the sole survivors. On the next episode of Raw, Ambrose would completely blow a gasket backstage, and the Raw GM Paul Heyman was forced to suspend Ambrose for 60 days. This allowed Seth Rollins the chance to challenge Ryback for the World Heavyweight Championship at Fastlane, but Rollins would ultimately lose that match. Dean Ambrose made his triumphant return as the 17th entrant in the Royal Rumble match, and he even formed a brief alliance with Roman Reigns during the match. Late into that bout, Ambrose would get a taste of revenge by eliminating his arch-rival from the match before he himself was eliminated by Cesaro. After that, a no-contact clause between the 2 men was put into effect. Furthermore, if Ambrose wanted another crack at Seth Rollins, he would first have to go through the same man who had clashed with the Shield several times in the past, Triple H. In the meantime, Seth Rollins was busy replacing his subordinates left and right. Big Show was tossed in exchange for Baron Corbin, Blake and Murphy were replaced by The Revival, even Kane went rogue and battled Rollins on an episode of Raw. Rollins would eventually establish order in his new faction, however. Baron Corbin had a bloody war with Ambrose just prior to Roadblock, and though that seemed like it was going to give Triple H a huge advantage, Ambrose pulled through and defeated the King of Kings at Roadblock. What followed was a brief calm before the storm that took place on this past episode of Raw. Yet that storm was only just a taste of what we should expect to see this Sunday. Dean Ambrose has been completely consumed by this idea of revenge, this idea of tearing Seth Rollins limb from limb, and now, these 2 men will be locked into a 60-minute nightmare. With so much animosity built into this rivalry, regardless of who wins this match, will either of these 2 men live to brag about it? Dolph Ziggler's first world title reign came to an end at SummerSlam thanks to an injury he had sustained in his prior defense at Money in the Bank. We all expected Dolph Ziggler to be out of action for well over 6 months, which made his return at Survivor Series just 3 months later all the more shocking. Ziggler's immediate goal was to cash in his rematch clause on the man who took the championship from him, but Ziggler would re-aggravate his neck injury just 1 day after his pay-per-view return. Ziggler returned once again at Fastlane to announce that he would be cashing in his rematch on the following episode of Raw. But later in the night, after Ryback had exhausted himself in a title defense against Seth Rollins, Baron Corbin would absolutely obliterate the World Heavyweight Champion. This gave Dolph Ziggler the chance to reclaim his world title once and for all. 4 weeks later, he would successfully defend the gold against a game Rusev, and at Roadblock, Ziggler defeated the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels in a non-title encounter. Following the match, Ziggler sought to annihilate Michaels with a steel chair until Cesaro stepped in to rescue the legend. Cesaro, much like Dolph Ziggler, had a career-defining second year in Universe Mode. At last year's WrestleMania, he defeated Alberto Del Rio for the US title. After successfully defending the gold at the next 2 pay-per-views, Cesaro began a weekly United States Championship Open Challenge that lasted from June all the way through October. The highlight of this came at SummerSlam when Cesaro defeated Finn Balor, Hideo Itami, Sami Zayn, and Heath Slater in an Open Challenge Championship Scramble match. At Night of Champions, the Swiss Superman defeated the Intercontinental Champion Titus O'Neil in a title versus title match. His reign as IC champ would be short-lived, however, as he lost the belt to Kevin Owens just 11 days later. And shortly after that, Cesaro dropped the US title to Baron Corbin. Cesaro wouldn't reach his turning point until January, when he defeated 39 other men to win the second annual Royal Rumble match. After coming to the aid of Shawn Michaels, Cesaro announced that he would fight Dolph Ziggler in the main event of WrestleMania. The next night on Raw, after Ziggler lost a match against the returning Christian, Cesaro once again came to the veteran's aid. This turned out to be a trap set by Ziggler and Christian in an effort to injure Cesaro before WrestleMania, but before they could finish the King of Swing for good, Edge made a shocking return to save Cesaro. 1 week later, the team of Edge and Cesaro faced off against the team of Christian and Ziggler in the main event, and at the end of it all, Dolph Ziggler was the last man standing. Will that be the case this Sunday? Or will Dolph Ziggler's refusal to treat his lingering injuries ultimately cause his downfall? Can Cesaro finally reach the pinnacle of this industry, or will he fall short once again? Who will walk out of the WrestleMania main event with the World Heavyweight title? Leave your predictions for this match along with all of the others down in the comments section, and while you're at it, what match are you looking forward to the most? This is going to be the biggest event in the history of this universe mode, and I need your support to cement that claim. Please share this video with anyone you think would enjoy it. Now is the perfect opportunity for new people to join the series. A syndicated show like this isn't really designed to cater to new viewers, but a rare recap video like this would be the optimal chance for new viewers to learn the backstory of everything that is going to happen at WrestleMania. With all of that done and dusted, let's kick it to the arena in Miami, where Becky Lynch and Charlotte will take on Dana Brooke and Emma in tag team action. From the studio to the arena, we are back here in Florida, and we are set for women's tag team action as we finally look to see the conclusion of this saga between Emma, Dana Brooke, and Charlotte. Now Becky Lynch has even been dragged into the mix. Becky Lynch and Charlotte set to take on Emma and Dana Brooke in our main event. And it is coming up next. Becky Lynch, the Irish lass kicker, is looking just as fired up as ever. Of course, this matchup was spawned after last week on SmackDown. Emma, actually no, it wasn't last week, it was 2 weeks ago on SmackDown. No, it was last week. No, I'm all over the place. It was 2 weeks ago, and we're gonna stick with that. 2 weeks ago on SmackDown, Emma and Dana Brooke blindsided Becky Lynch backstage just 1 day, 1 night before her last chance match in the Queen of the Ring tournament with Sasha Banks. And you have to say that that was a big factor as to why Becky Lynch could not defeat Sasha Banks in that last chance matchup. I mean, Emma and Dana Brooke, their fingerprints have been all over the Queen of the Ring tournament. Even though Emma was eliminated in the first round, Dana Brooke wasn't even a part of the tournament. But Brooke and Emma, they definitely played perhaps one of the biggest roles in the tournament. They helped knock Charlotte from the competition. They helped eliminate Becky Lynch once and for all. And while none of these 4 women are gonna be at WrestleMania, they all missed their chance. It's gonna be Charlotte, or no, it's gonna be Natalya, Asuka, and Sasha Banks competing for the Women's Championship at WrestleMania. But nonetheless, Charlotte, Becky Lynch, Emma and Dana Brooke, all tonight, this is their chance to make their own WrestleMania moment. Even though they're not gonna be in the Women's Championship picture, the key here is to score as many victories as you possibly can, build up enough hype for yourself, get enough victories so that you are the #1 contender following WrestleMania, so that you can jump straight into that championship scene. Because once the Queen of the Ring tournament is over, once we have crowned our first women's champion, well, the gates are open, it's anybody's game, and it's just a matter of who can win the race to the #1 contendership first. It could be any of these 4 women, really. They've all shown why they could be a deserving contender. Although in the case of Dana Brooke and Emma, it's been more so their force as a tag team that has propelled them to the top, rather than their own singles accolades. Because even when Emma defeated Charlotte at Roadblock, it was thanks to Dana Brooke after Brooke had blindsided Charlotte, slamming her skull first into the steel steps before the match could even begin. Charlotte, she has lost to Dana Brooke, but she has defeated Dana Brooke. She has lost to Emma, but defeated Emma. It's very back and forth, this rivalry between these 3. And now that Becky Lynch has been thrown into the mix, well, it only gets worse from here. Hopefully tonight we can finally get a blow-off to all of this. We can finally see this rivalry end. Preferably, I know I'm being a bit biased here, but I would rather see Charlotte and Becky Lynch leave this rivalry on top, and here's why. Emma, she has just completely ruined the Queen of the Ring tournament. This massive tournament, a chance to revitalize the division, a chance to crown the first ever women's champion of the new era. And once Emma was eliminated, she acted like a sore loser and tried to destroy the legacy that this tournament would create. I don't feel like a person like that deserves to be the champion. I don't feel like the person like that deserves to even be a contender for it. But Emma, she's proven herself. She's proven that she should be the #1 contender. And I will credit her at that. Her in-ring ability cannot be matched. But Emma, outside of the ring, I cannot condone her actions, not even a bit. Well, tonight we don't have to worry about her actions outside of the ring, because this is a fair, straight-up tag team matchup. There's no running away from this. Charlotte and Becky Lynch looking to get their revenge on Emma and Dana Brooke, once and for all. As the referee rings the bell, it looks like Becky Lynch and Dana Brooke are going to start this matchup off. As right off the bat, Becky goes straight for the arm of Dana Brooke. That is her trademark. Wear down the arm, soften Dana up for the disarm her. And that's the thing. Both of these women currently in the ring are powerhouses. Becky Lynch, I'd say her specialty lies in submissions. But nonetheless, her strength is not something to scoff at. As you see it on display there, she lifted Dana Brooke up for a back suplex, but Brooke was able to counter it into a bulldog. And then with Dana Brooke, she's shown us her power in her match with Charlotte. As Dana Brooke now with a clothesline drops Becky Lynch like a sack of potatoes, and now just mocking the crowd, mocking Becky Lynch, mocking Charlotte. Dana Brooke, she certainly has an ego that can't be matched. I'd say perhaps the only one who could rival her ego is Emma. So it's only fitting that those two would pair up, that they would work together. Great minds think alike, I suppose. Or in this case, arrogant minds think alike. And they have gained success because of it, so, maybe arrogance is greatness in this situation. I mean, I'm just the commentator, what do I know? Because right now, Dana Brooke, with a submission of her own, going to work on the leg of Becky Lynch. But Becky Lynch, there's her technical prowess. Able to find a counter to it. And then off that clothesline, Becky Lynch continuing to keep up the pressure on Dana Brooke. As Becky, with a massive forearm, follows it up with another one. Irish whip sending Dana Brooke over the top rope, but Brooke just able to hang on. And now Lynch looking to suplex Dana Brooke back into the ring. There's the power, the strength of the Irish lass kicker. And she is kicking this lass right now. Dana Brooke. Honestly, she has gotten her shots in. But Becky Lynch is in firm control right now, so it doesn't matter. As now the tag is made to Charlotte. And just look at this. Knife-edge chops by Becky Lynch. Nice double teamwork there from Charlotte and Lynch. As now Charlotte with a knife-edge chop of her own. A chop that just echoed throughout this arena. A chop that would make her daddy proud. I'm sure that Ric Flair is watching this matchup wherever he is. Hopefully sober. But I'm not going to open that can of worms. As Charlotte, knife-edge chop. Again. Either way, whether Flair is sober or not, I'm sure that he's proud of his daughter's performance in this matchup thus far. As Charlotte makes the tag again, looking to share the spotlight with Becky Lynch. As look at this, double arm drag, and a kip up, double kip up. Look at the athleticism of Charlotte and Becky Lynch. Look at the teamwork. These two women are on the same page. As right now, Dana Brooke is just getting torn apart by the combination of Charlotte and Lynch. Irish whip. Dana Brooke whipped off the ropes. Even Emma got knocked off the ropes. Becky Lynch looking to... No! Reversal by Dana Brooke. And a knife-edge chop by Dana Brooke. Just look at the force behind that one. Sent Becky Lynch crashing to the canvas. As now Brooke, tossing Lynch into the corner, makes a tag back to Emma. And now Emma with a boot to the midsection. There's some teamwork on the part of Emma and Dana Brooke. They definitely have more experience as a unit than Lynch and Charlotte do. As Emma drives the knee straight into the spine of Emma. Yes, she just drove the knee into her own spine. Great work, Mathwiz. No, she drove the knee into the spine of Becky Lynch. As now she backs Lynch into the corner. Tag made to Dana Brooke yet again. As this is trouble. Bad news for Becky Lynch as now Dana Brooke launches herself. An elbow drop coupled with a backbreaker. Dana goes for the pin. 1, 2. But there's Charlotte to make the save. Just in the nick of time. But Dana Brooke, she should be capitalizing. She should be staying on the offensive. But instead, she wastes time taunting. But it doesn't look like that's going to come back to haunt her in any way. As look at Dana Brooke driving that boot into the face. And this is the epitome of arrogance. Not only is she inflicting damage on her opponent, but she's doing it in a handstand. As now Emma with a cannonball into the corner. Becky Lynch is just being tormented right now by these two women. Emma with a missile dropkick to the skull and another cannonball. Emma and Dana Brooke have quickly gained firm control in this matchup, but Becky Lynch, amazing ring presence there by Becky Lynch, getting her foot to the bottom rope, not wasting the energy on a kick out. You gotta save as much energy as you can in a matchup like this. Oh, wait, reversal. Becky Lynch countered, and now look at this. Leg capture suplex by Becky Lynch, and she goes for the pin, but there's Dana Brooke. Dana Brooke still in the ring. And as a result, Brooke able to save Emma from that pinning predicament. Becky Lynch, she might have had the win at hand, but we'll never know. Instead, Becky's gonna have to keep up the assault, and that's just what she's looking to do with the disarm her, but immediately, Dana Brooke rushes the ring and breaks up that submission attempt. Becky Lynch, maybe she would have had a submission there, but Dana Brooke made sure it didn't happen. As now Becky Lynch with the head scissors. Wait, but Emma able to escape. Emma had the counter for it, and a pendulum backbreaker. As now Emma scales to the top rope. Dana Brooke is down on the outside. If there was ever a time to strike for Lynch and Charlotte, it would be now. But it doesn't look like they're gonna get the chance. As Emma missile dropkick, but she missed. Emma crashed and burned. And now Becky Lynch, she gets rid of Dana Brooke again. Becky Lynch trying to rally. As Emma whipped into the corner. Becky Lynch makes the tag to Charlotte. And Emma now whipped into the corner, straight into the knees of Charlotte. Right to the lower spine of Emma there. But wait, it's reversed by Emma. Emma had the counter to that backbreaker with a head scissors. As now Charlotte staggers. Emma a punch to the face. Oh, and this is not looking good. Slingshot straight into the ropes. Choking all the life out of Charlotte. And now Emma has her in the corner. And that is quite the dilemma that Charlotte is in at the moment. Emma using the ropes, but she's got a 5 count. She's not going to be able to make Charlotte tap that way, but she is going to be able to inflict some critical damage. As now Emma looking to follow it up with a vertical suplex. But Charlotte just able to land it. And now look at this. Roll up by Charlotte. Bridging into the pin. 1. Got her. 2. Got her. 3. So close, but no cigar. Emma just able to kick out, but Charlotte not letting up. Another bridge pin. 1. Got her. 2. Got her. 3. Now a kick out again. Emma just able to survive it. Charlotte a little off balance. And Emma now with a roll up. She's got Charlotte down. 1. Got her. 2. Got her. No. Charlotte just barely escapes. As Emma now. No, but a spear! Out of nowhere, Charlotte with the spear. Emma's in trouble. Emma's in a bad way. As Charlotte, well, she knows she's in control. Just dusting off her boots. As, oh no, wait, Emma able to roll through. She knew she was in trouble. And another reversal. Emma, look at this. Back suplex taking down Charlotte. And Emma quickly gets away. Emma quickly looking to make a tag, looking for some reprieve. And she gets it. Dana Brooke re-enters this matchup. And Dana Brooke could be looking to finish her off. No, not so fast. Charlotte reverses, and now it's Charlotte who could finish Dana Brooke off right here and now. Natural selection, and it is over if Charlotte can pin her. She's got this match in the bag. Hook of the leg. Here comes Becky Lynch. 1, 2, 3. It's over. Becky Lynch neutralizes Emma, making sure that she won't break up the pin. And just like that, Charlotte and Becky Lynch pick up a major victory in tag team action tonight. They might not be on the WrestleMania card. They might not be competing for the Women's Championship. But if you're looking for the top contenders, you've got some strong faces right here. And until next time, keep on YouTubing.